Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and watched the stars blur past the viewing screen. After 3 months of travel through the dark void of space, they were finally approaching their destination. The Kepler 442 system lay ahead, and with it, the possibility of finding intelligent life beyond Earth. Jake had been chosen to lead this mission because of his calm nature and diplomatic skills. At 35 years old, he had already commanded several successful deep space missions, but nothing compared to this moment. Humanity had just mastered faster-than-light travel, and this was their first journey to a system that might contain alien civilizations. "Sir, we're picking up artificial signals from the third planet," reported Lieutenant Amy Brooks from her position at the communications station. Her voice carried excitement mixed with nervousness. "The patterns are definitely not natural. Someone is trying to communicate with us." Jake felt his heart rate increase. Earth's long-range sensors had detected signs of advanced technology in this system. But actually receiving signals was different. This was really happening. They were about to make first contact with an alien species. "Put the signals through." "The universal translator," Jake ordered. The device had been loaded with thousands of Earth languages and mathematical principles. Hoping it could help decode alien communication, the bridge fell silent as strange sounds filled the air. At first, it was just noise, but gradually the translator began to make sense of the patterns. After several minutes, words started to form. "Welcome, travelers from the distant star," the translated voice said. "We are the Zephyrian Collective. We have been watching your approach with great interest and joy. Please, do not fear us. We come in peace and friendship." Jake exchanged looks with his crew. The aliens had been watching them approach, which meant they had advanced detection technology. But their words seemed genuinely peaceful. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Defiance," Jake replied into the communication system. "We represent the human race from the planet Earth. We also come in peace." The response came quickly. "Commander Morrison, we are honored to meet you and your species. I am Ambassador Kethra of the Zephyrian Collective. Would you accept our invitation to visit our world? We have much to share and learn from each other." Jake's mind raced. Protocol demanded caution, but the aliens seemed genuinely welcoming. "We would be honored to visit your world, Ambassador Kethver. How should we proceed?" "Follow the navigation beacon we are sending to your ship. It will guide you to our capital. World Zephyria Prime. Do not worry about any defensive systems. We have already signaled all our ships that you are welcome guests." As the Defiance followed the alien beacon toward the third planet, Jake and his crew prepared for the most important moment in human history. The planet that appeared on their screens was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents. Much like Earth, cities glowed softly across the surface, connected by networks of light that suggested advanced transportation systems. "Sir, we're being hailed by multiple ships," reported Lieutenant Brooks. "They seem to be forming an honor guard around us." Jake looked at the tactical display. Dozens of sleek alien vessels had positioned themselves around the Defiance, but their weapons were powered down, and their formation was clearly ceremonial rather than threatening. "Take us down to the coordinates they provided," Jake ordered, "and prepare the landing party. History is about to be made." The Defiance landed in a vast spaceport filled with ships of various designs. As Jake and his team prepared to disembark, they could see crowds of aliens gathering at a safe distance. The beings were tall and graceful, with pale blue skin and large, intelligent eyes. They moved with a fluid grace that suggested they had evolved in a lighter gravity than Earth's. Ambassador Kethver approached the human ship with a small group of his people. He was dressed in flowing robes that seemed to shimmer with their own light. When he spoke, his voice was melodious and kind. "Commander Morrison, welcome to Zephyria Prime. You and your people are the first new species we have encountered in over 200 years. This is truly a day of celebration for all of us." Jake stepped forward, feeling the weight of representing all humanity. "Thank you, Ambassador. We're honored to be here and to meet your people. Please, let me introduce you to the leaders of our collective," Kethver said, gesturing to the beings beside him. "We are an alliance of 3 species who have shared this system in peace for over 1,000 years. Together, We have built a civilization based on cooperation and mutual respect." The next several hours were like a dream. The aliens showed Jake and his crew through their magnificent cities, where gleaming spires reached toward the sky and gardens bloomed in impossible colors. The three species of the collective had different appearances but worked together seamlessly, sharing knowledge and resources freely. "Our medical technology has eliminated most diseases," explained Dr. Yelenara, a female Zephyrian who served as their chief scientist. "We have learned to heal injuries that would be fatal to most species. We would be happy to share this knowledge with your people and our energy systems," added Engineer Torvas. It's a member of the second species with crystalline skin that reflected light like a prism. "We have developed clean fusion reactors that can power entire cities without producing any waste. Your people would never need to worry about energy shortages again." The third species, the Valkyrie, were shorter and more compact, with skin that looked like polished metal. Their representative, agricultural specialist Mordain, spoke about their farming techniques. "We have learned to grow food in any environment, even in the vacuum of space. Our methods could feed your entire population many times over." Jake felt overwhelmed by the generosity of these beings. They were offering to share technologies that would solve many of Earth's problems, asking for nothing in return except friendship and cultural exchange. "Why are you willing to share so much with us?" Jake asked during a formal dinner that evening. "We've only just met, and you're offering us the keys to your civilization." Ambassador Kethfer smiled, his large eyes showing genuine warmth. "Because that is who we are, Commander. Our species evolved to cooperate, not to compete. We believe that knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied. When one species grows stronger and wiser, all species benefit." "But surely you must want something in return," pressed Dr. Linda Carter, the Defiance's chief science officer. "No civilization gives away their greatest achievements for free." "Your friendship is payment enough," Kethfer replied. "And perhaps, in time, you will share your own knowledge with us. Every species has unique perspectives and abilities. We are curious about your music, your art, your ways of thinking. These things have value that cannot be measured in technology alone." As the evening continued, Jake found himself genuinely liking these aliens. They were intelligent, kind, and seemed to possess a wisdom that came from centuries of peaceful cooperation. Their offer to share their advanced technology could transform human civilization overnight. But as Jake prepared his report for Earth, he couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The Zephyrians' generosity seemed too good to be true. In his experience, when something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. He hoped he was wrong. But he knew that Earth's leaders would be even more suspicious than he was. The next morning, as the Defiance prepared to depart for Earth, Ambassador Kethfer gave Jake a small device. "This contains detailed information about our technologies and our civilization. Share it with your leaders, and tell them that the Zephyrian Collective extends an invitation to join us as equals in our alliance." Jake took the device, feeling its weight in his hands. Such a small thing, but it contained the power to change everything. "I'll make sure they receive your message, Ambassador. Thank you for your hospitality." As the Defiance lifted off from Zephyria Prime, Jake watched the beautiful planet shrink away behind them. He had a long journey back to Earth to prepare his report, and he knew that every word would be scrutinized by Earth's leaders. The future of human-alien relations would depend on how well he could convince them that the Zephyrians were truly peaceful, but deep in his heart, Jake feared that Earth's response would not be what these generous aliens hoped for. The journey back to Earth took 3 months, and Commander Jake Morrison used every day to prepare his report. He reviewed the recordings from Zephyria Prime dozens of times, making sure he captured every detail of the aliens' peaceful nature and generous offers. The small device that Ambassador Kethfer had given him sat locked in his personal safe, containing technologies that could change human civilization forever. When the UES Defiance finally docked at Luna Station, Jake was surprised to find a full military escort waiting for him. Admiral Lisa Stone, the newly appointed head of the Terran Defense Initiative, stood at the airlock with a dozen armed guards. Her face was stern and unsmiling. "Commander Morrison, you and your crew are to be debriefed immediately," she said without any greeting. The device you're carrying is to be surrendered to our science division for analysis. Jake handed over the alien device reluctantly. Admiral, I need to stress that the Zephyrians are completely peaceful. They're offering to share their technology freely with no strings attached. We'll be the judge of that, Admiral Stone replied coldly. Follow me. The president is waiting. The debriefing room in the Pentagon was filled with the most powerful people on Earth. President Helen Carter sat at the head of the table, flanked by Defense Secretary Rick Barnes and several other cabinet members. Scientists, military officers, and intelligence analysts filled the remaining seats. Jake spent the next 6 hours describing every detail of his encounter with the Zephyrians. He showed them recordings of the beautiful alien cities, the peaceful technology demonstrations, and the warm welcome his crew had received. When he finished, the room fell silent. Commander Morrison, President Carter began, your report is certainly interesting. But I have to ask, don't you find it suspicious that these aliens are offering us such advanced technology for nothing in return? Ma'am, I spent several days with them, Jake replied. They're genuinely peaceful people. Their entire civilization is based on cooperation and sharing knowledge. It's just how they evolved. Defense Secretary Barnes leaned forward. Commander, in my experience, nobody gives away their greatest advantages without expecting something. In return, these aliens may seem friendly, but they could be trying to make us dependent on their technology. Or they could be planning to use their superior technology to control us, added General Marcus Webb, the stern-faced commander of Earth's military forces. Once we accept their help, we'd be at their mercy. Dr. Linda Carter, who had accompanied Jake to Zephyria Prime, spoke up from her seat. Generals, I've analyzed their biological samples. The Zephyrians have brain structures that make them naturally cooperative. They literally evolved to work together rather than compete. Their peaceful nature isn't an act. Admiral Stone dismissed the scientific evidence with a wave of her hand. Dr. Carter, what you're describing sounds like evolutionary weakness to me. Any species that evolved to be naturally cooperative would be easy to conquer if they met a more aggressive race. But that's exactly the point, Jake said, his voice rising with frustration. They're not trying to conquer anyone. They want to share their knowledge and learn from us. No, this is the greatest opportunity in human history. President Carter studied Jake for a long moment. Commander, I understand your enthusiasm, but we have to consider the safety of our entire species. What if accepting their technology makes us dependent on them? What if they decide to cut off our access to their advances? Then we'd be back where we started, Jake replied. We wouldn't lose anything by trying to learn from them. Actually, we would, Defense Secretary Barnes interjected, lose our independence, our ability to develop our own solutions. Our children would grow up thinking that humans need alien help to survive. The debate continued for hours. But Jake could see that the decision had already been made. The military leaders and politicians had convinced themselves that the Zephyrians' offer was too dangerous to accept. Their fear of dependence outweighed any potential benefits. Dr. Alina Rodriguez, Earth's leading xenobiologist, had been quietly studying the data from Jake's mission. When she finally spoke, her voice was excited. President Carter, I've been analyzing the genetic samples the Zephyrians shared with us. Their DNA shows clear evidence of artificial modification. They've been genetically engineered to be cooperative and peaceful, you see, Admiral Stone said triumphantly. They've been modified to be weak and trusting. No natural species would survive with such traits. This proves they're not telling us the whole truth about their history. Jake felt his heart sink. Even scientific evidence was being twisted to support the military's suspicious worldview. Admiral, maybe they modified themselves to be more peaceful. Maybe they chose to evolve beyond warfare and aggression. Or maybe another species modified them to be docile slaves, General Webb suggested. And now they're trying to do the same thing to us. The meeting ended with President Carter's decision. Earth would politely decline the Zephyrian offer and maintain only minimal contact with the alien civilization. When Jake protested, he was told that the decision was final and that he was not to discuss the matter with anyone outside the room. 2 weeks later, Jake found himself back aboard the UES Defiance, carrying Earth's official response to the Zephyrian Collective. The message was diplomatic but cold. thanking the aliens for their offer while explaining that humanity preferred to develop independently. When they arrived at Zephyria Prime, Ambassador Kethver was waiting at the same spaceport where he had welcomed them months earlier. But this time, his large eyes showed confusion and sadness. "Commander Morrison, we received your government's message," Kethver said, as they met in the same conference room where the aliens had made their generous offer. "We do not understand. Have we done something to offend your people?" Jake felt ashamed to be delivering such a disappointing response. "Ambassador, my people are naturally cautious. They need time to consider your offer." "Time we understand," Kethver replied gently. "But your message suggests that you suspect us of having hidden motives. This troubles us greatly. We've shared our knowledge freely with you, holding nothing back. What can we do to prove our sincere desire for friendship?" "I don't know," Jake admitted. "Some of my people believe that your generosity is too good to be true. They think you must want something in return." Kethver's expression became even more confused. "But we do want something in return, Commander. We want friendship. We want to learn about your music, your art, your unique ways of thinking. We want to share the joy of discovery with another intelligent species. Are these not valuable things?" Jake realized that the aliens' concept of value was completely different from humanity's. To them, knowledge and friendship were treasures, worth more than any technology, but to Earth's leaders, intangible benefits seemed worthless compared to the risk of dependence. "My people will need time to understand your way of thinking," Jake said carefully. "Perhaps in the future, when we're more comfortable with the idea of alien contact, we can reconsider your offer." Kethver nodded slowly. "We will wait, Commander Morrison. We will give your people all the time they need. We will not abandon our hope for friendship between our species." As Jake prepared to leave, Kethver handed him another small device. "This contains updates on our scientific research and cultural developments. Even if your government is not ready to accept our partnership, perhaps individual humans might be interested in learning about us." The return journey to Earth was the longest 3 months of Jake's life. He knew that he had been part of humanity's greatest mistake. The Zephyrians had offered them a chance to join a peaceful galactic civilization. Earth had chosen fear over hope. When he arrived back at Earth, Jake submitted his final report and requested a transfer to a quiet research station. He couldn't bear to be part of the political and military machinery that rejected such a wonderful opportunity. Meanwhile, the Zephyrians quietly withdrew most of their ships from the border areas between their space and human territory. They established a small diplomatic station at the edge of human space and continued sending periodic messages of friendship. Each message included updates on their scientific advances and cultural achievements. It's hoping that someday humanity would change its mind. But as months passed, the messages became less frequent. The Zephyrians were patient, but they could sense that humanity had made its choice. They began to focus their attention on other parts of the galaxy, leaving only a small group of diplomats to maintain minimal contact with the human species. Back on Earth, Admiral Stone used the alien technology samples to develop new weapon systems. Defense Secretary Barnes increased military spending, arguing that humanity needed to be prepared for the eventual alien invasion that he was certain would come. President Carter won re-election by promising to keep Earth independent and strong, and in the depths of space, the Zephyrians waited and hoped that someday the species called humans would overcome their fear and choose friendship over suspicion. 2 years had passed since humanity rejected the Zephyrian peace offer. The galaxy had settled into an uneasy quiet, with the aliens keeping their distance while maintaining their small diplomatic station at the edge of human space. Earth's leaders had convinced themselves that their caution was justified. Life continued as normal for most humans. Tony Mitchell wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked the mining equipment for the 3rd time that morning. The asteroid mining station. Prosperity was humanity's most advanced facility, floating in the disputed border zone between human and Zephyrian space. Tony had been foreman here for 6 months, supervising a crew of 20 miners who extracted rare metals from the massive rock formations. "Hey, Tony, the fusion reactor is acting up again," called out Carl Johnson, a stocky miner with 15 years of experience. "The containment field keeps fluctuating. We might need to shut down operations for a few days." Tony frowned as he looked at the readings on his tablet. The mining station's power systems had been having problems for weeks, but corporate headquarters kept insisting they continue operations. The rare metals they were extracting were worth billions of credits, and the company didn't want to lose even a day of production. "Run another diagnostic," Tony ordered. "If the containment field drops below safety levels, we'll have to evacuate." The mining station was essentially a large artificial habitat built around the asteroid. It had living quarters, work areas, and a central reactor that powered all the equipment. The fusion reactor was the heart of the operation, providing the enormous amounts of energy needed to blast through solid rock and extract precious metals. At noon, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Tony rushed to the control room where his assistant, Betty Walsh, was frantically trying to shut down systems. "The containment field is collapsing," she shouted over the noise. "The reactor's going critical. We have maybe 10 minutes before it blows." Tony felt his blood turn cold. A reactor explosion would not only destroy the mining station, but create a radiation field that would be deadly for light years around. "Get everyone to the escape pods. Send out a distress signal on all frequencies." The miners moved quickly through the station's corridors, but Tony could see the fear in their eyes. There were only 2 escape pods, and each could hold a maximum of 8 people. With 22 people on the station, including Tony and Betty, some would have to stay behind. "I'm not leaving," Tony announced as the miners gathered at the escape pod bay. "Carl, you take charge of the first pod. Betty, you lead the second group. Get everyone to safety." "Tony, you can't stay here," Betty protested. "The radiation will kill you within hours." "Someone needs to keep working on the reactor," Tony replied. "Maybe I can buy you enough time to get far enough away." As the escape pods launched, Tony returned to the control room. The reactor was getting worse by the minute, and he knew he had only a few minutes before the containment field would fail completely. He sent another distress signal, hoping that someone would receive it and rescue the people in the escape pods. The Zephyrian rescue ship, Healing Light, was patrolling the border region when Captain Velinara received the human distress signal. She was an experienced officer who had spent decades rescuing ships in trouble throughout Zephyrian space. "Captain, we're receiving a distress call from the human mining station," reported her communications officer. "Their reactor is failing. They have people in escape pods and at least 1 person still on the station." Velinara didn't hesitate. Despite the tensions between their species, the Zephyrians had a sacred duty to help anyone in distress. "Set course for the mining station. Prepare the engineering teams for emergency repairs." The Healing Light was designed specifically for rescue operations, carried advanced equipment for repairing damaged ships, and medical facilities for treating injured survivors. The crew of 30 Zephyrians were all volunteers who had dedicated their lives to helping others. When they arrived at the mining station, Velinara could see that the situation was desperate. The human facility was venting plasma from several locations, and the central reactor was clearly on the verge of explosion. The escape pods were moving away from the station, but they wouldn't be far enough away to survive the blast. "Beam me and the engineering team directly to their reactor room," Velinara ordered. "We need to stabilize that containment field immediately." The Zephyrian transporter technology allowed them to materialize directly inside the mining station. Tony was alone in the control room, frantically trying to repair systems that were failing faster than he could fix them. When the aliens suddenly appeared around him, he nearly jumped out of his skin. "Do not fear, Captain," Velinara said, her voice calm and reassuring. "We are here to help. We received your distress signal." Tony stared at the tall, blue-skinned aliens in shock. He had never seen a Zephyrian in person before, and their sudden appearance in his control room was terrifying. "What are you doing here? How did you get inside?" "We are repairing your reactor," Velinara explained as her engineering team immediately began working on the failing systems. "Our technology can stabilize the containment field." The Zephyrian engineers moved with incredible speed and efficiency. They connected strange devices to the reactor controls and began channeling energy from their own ship to reinforce the failing containment field. Within minutes, the alarm stopped blaring and the reactor readings began to stabilize. But Tony was too frightened to understand what was happening. All he could see were alien beings with advanced technology taking control of his station. In his panicked state, he was certain they were attacking rather than helping. "Get away from those controls," Tony shouted, grabbing a plasma cutter from the nearby tool rack. "You're not going to sabotage our station." "Please remain calm," Velinara said, raising her hands to show she was unarmed. "We are here to help you. Your reactor was about to explode." "I don't believe you," Tony replied, his voice shaking with fear and adrenaline. "You're trying to destroy our station so you can claim this territory." The plasma cutter in Tony's hands was designed for cutting through solid rock, but it could also be used as a weapon. In his terrified state, he activated the device and swept it across the control room. The superheated plasma beam struck two of the Zephyrian engineers, seriously. Injuring them, Captain Velinara immediately ordered her team to retreat. "Emergency transport, now. Get the wounded to medical bay." As the Zephyrians disappeared, Tony realized what he had done. The aliens had been working to save his station, and he had attacked them. But it was too late. Without the alien engineers continuing their repairs, the reactor containment field began to fail again. This time, Tony couldn't stop it. The fusion reactor exploded just as the escape pods reached what they thought was a safe distance. The blast was so powerful that it destroyed both escape pods instantly. Killing all 20 people aboard, including Carl Johnson and Betty Walsh, Tony died in the explosion as well, along with the mining station and the asteroid it was built around. The radiation from the failed reactor created a dead zone in space that would be dangerous for decades to come. The only record of what had really happened was the sensor data from the Zephyrian ship Healing Light. The recordings clearly showed that Captain Velinara and her crew had been trying to save the human station when they were attacked by the frightened miner. But when the news reached Earth, the story was very different. The unclear footage from the mining station's security cameras showed armed aliens boarding the facility just before it exploded. Admiral Stone presented the incident to the Global Council as evidence of a Zephyrian attack. "They waited for our people to be most vulnerable," Admiral Stone told the emergency session. "Then they boarded the station and sabotaged the reactor. This was a deliberate act of war." The truth about the failed rescue attempt was lost in the hysteria that followed. Earth's media showed the footage over and over, always focusing on the moment when the aliens appeared on the station, rather than the evidence that they were trying to help. Commander Jake Morrison, stationed at a remote research facility, watched the news reports with growing horror. He knew the Zephyrians well enough to understand that they had been trying to rescue the miners, not attack them. But when he tried to speak out, he was told to keep quiet or face court-martial. President Carter appeared on television to address the nation. "The attack on our mining station proves that we were right to be cautious about the alien threat. These creatures have shown their true nature. They are not the peaceful beings they pretended to be." Defense Secretary Barnes used the incident to increase military spending even further. "We must be prepared to defend ourselves against future alien attacks. The Zephyrians have declared war on humanity, and we will respond with overwhelming force." But in the depths of space, Captain Velinara sat in her medical bay watching over her two injured crew members. She couldn't understand why the human had attacked them when they were trying to save his life. The incident had shaken her faith in the possibility of peaceful relations between their species. "Captain," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving angry messages from the human government. They're accusing us of attacking their mining station." The emergency session of the Global Council lasted for 18 hours. President Helen Carter sat at the center of the massive chamber, surrounded by representatives from every nation on Earth. The holographic displays showed footage of the destroyed mining station over and over, each replay fueling more anger and fear. "The evidence is clear," Admiral Lisa Stone announced as she stood before the assembled leaders. "The aliens waited until our miners were in distress, then boarded their station, and caused a reactor explosion that killed 22 innocent people. This was not an accident. This was murder." The Indian representative raised her hand. "Admiral Stone, do we have any proof that the aliens actually caused the explosion?" "The footage shows them on the station, but it doesn't clearly show them sabotaging anything." "The timing speaks for itself," Stone replied firmly. "They appeared on the station just minutes before it exploded. What other explanation could there be? General Marcus Webb stepped forward with additional evidence. Our intelligence suggests this was a planned attack. The aliens have been monitoring our mining operations for months. They knew exactly when and where to strike for maximum impact. President Carter listened to the debates with growing impatience. The corporate leaders who funded her campaigns had been pressuring her for weeks to take action against the alien threat. The Zephyrian technology could make their industries obsolete overnight. They wanted the alien influence eliminated before it could damage their profits. The question before us is simple, Carter announced, cutting off the debate. Do we allow these aliens to attack our people without consequence, or do we defend ourselves? The vote was closer than Stone had hoped, but fear eventually won over caution. By a margin of just 12 votes, the Global Council authorized military action against the Zephyrian Collective. The Terran Defense Fleet was given orders to establish a security perimeter around human space and prevent any further alien incursions. 3 days later, Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the massive battleship U.S. Retribution as it led a fleet of 30 warships toward the border zone. The human fleet was impressive by Earth standards. With advanced weapons and shields that had been developed over decades of military research, Admiral, we're detecting a single alien ship approaching under a flag of truce, reported Captain Roy Palmer from the communications station. They're requesting permission to meet with you. Stone studied the tactical display. The alien ship was small and clearly unarmed, designed for diplomacy rather than combat. It's probably a trick, she muttered. But we'll hear what they have to say. Tell them to meet us at the New Geneva station. New Geneva was a neutral trading post that had been built in the border zone years earlier. It was the perfect location for a meeting between the two species. With facilities for both human and alien life support systems, Ambassador Kethfer arrived at the station 2 hours before the scheduled meeting, brought only a small diplomatic team and no weapons of any kind. The tall Zephyrian looked tired and sad as he waited in the station's main conference room when Admiral Stone arrived. She brought a full military escort and insisted that the meeting be recorded for security purposes. Commander Jake Morrison accompanied her as an observer, since he was the only human who had extensive experience with the Zephyrians. Admiral Stone Kethver began, standing as the human delegation entered the room. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I hope we can resolve this terrible misunderstanding before more people are hurt. Misunderstanding? Stone replied coldly. Ambassador, your people murdered 22 innocent miners? There's no misunderstanding about that. Kethfer's large eyes showed genuine confusion and pain. Admiral, I have brought the complete sensor records from our rescue ship. The data clearly shows that Captain Velinara and her crew were trying to save your people, not harm them. He activated a small device that projected a 3-dimensional recording of the mining station incident. The hologram showed the Zephyrian ship arriving at the scene and immediately beginning emergency repairs on the failing reactor. As you can see, Kethfer explained, our engineers successfully stabilized your reactor. The explosion only occurred after one of your miners attacked our crew and forced them to retreat. Jake Morrison leaned forward, studying the alien recording carefully. Admiral, this footage clearly shows that the Zephyrians were trying to help. The miner who attacked them was obviously terrified and didn't understand what was happening. This footage could easily be faked, Stone replied dismissively. Your people have technology far beyond ours. Creating false evidence would be simple for you. Kethfer looked shocked. Admiral, why would we create false evidence of our own rescue attempt? We have nothing to hide. We acted according to our most sacred duty to help those in distress. Maybe because you're trying to cover up your act of war, Stone suggested. Or maybe you're trying to make us think you're peaceful when you're actually planning a larger attack. The Zephyrian ambassador sat down slowly, as if the weight of the accusations was too much to bear. Admiral Stone, our two species have had peaceful contact for over 2 years. In all that time, have we ever shown any signs of aggression? Have we ever threatened your people in any way? Just because you've been quiet doesn't mean you're peaceful, Stone replied. It could mean you've been planning something big. Jake Morrison couldn't stay silent any longer. Admiral, with respect, you're looking for reasons to distrust these people. Everything they've done has been peaceful and helpful. This incident was clearly a tragic accident. Stone glared at the commander. Morrison, you've been compromised by alien influence. Our judgment cannot be trusted in this matter. That's not true, Jake protested. I'm looking at the evidence objectively. The Zephyrians have never done anything to harm us, except for killing 22 miners, Stone said firmly. Ambassador, your presence here is in violation of our newly established security zone. I'm placing you under arrest pending a full investigation of this attack. Kethfer stood up slowly, his face showing deep sadness rather than fear. Admiral, if you arrest me, my people will have no choice but to assume that humanity has chosen war over peace. Then maybe it's time your people understood that humans don't back down from threats, Stone replied, signaling to her guards. As the human soldiers moved to arrest the ambassador, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Admiral, we have multiple alien ships approaching, reported Captain Palmer. They appear to be coming to retrieve their ambassador. The Zephyrian ships were beautiful vessels that looked more like works of art than instruments of war. They moved with graceful precision as they approached New Geneva Station, their hulls glowing softly in the darkness of space. Captain Velinara, commanding the rescue fleet, came a transmission from the lead alien ship. We are here to retrieve Ambassador Kethfer. Please release him immediately, Negative Stone replied into her communicator. The ambassador is under arrest for war crimes. Any attempt to retrieve him will be considered an act of aggression. Admiral, we do not wish to fight you, Velinara responded, but we cannot allow our ambassador to be taken prisoner. Please reconsider your position. Stone turned to her tactical officer. How many alien ships are there? 12 vessels, Admiral. They appear to be lightly armed, designed more for rescue operations than combat. Perfect, Stone smiled grimly. Open fire on the lead ship. Show these aliens that humanity means business. The first shots of the war were fired by human weapons. The UES Retribution's main gun struck the Zephyrian rescue ship, causing significant damage. The alien vessel immediately began venting atmosphere and emergency signals filled the communication channels. Captain Velinara's voice came over the radio filled with shock and pain. Admiral Stone, why are you attacking us? Came here in peace. You came here to threaten us, Stone replied. Now you know what happens when you mess with humanity? The other Zephyrian ships immediately moved to assist their damaged companion, using their advanced technology to stabilize the hull breach and rescue the injured crew. But they also began charging their own weapons, realizing that diplomacy had failed. Admiral, the alien ships are powering up their weapons, reported the tactical officer. They're moving into defensive positions around their damaged vessel. Ships, open fire, Stone ordered. Show them the price of threatening human territory. The battle was brief, but intense. The human ships had more powerful weapons, but the Zephyrian vessels were faster and more maneuverable. Energy beams flashed between the fleets as both sides fought desperately. When the fighting ended 20 minutes later, 3 human ships had been severely damaged and 2 Zephyrian vessels had been destroyed. The casualties were heavy on both sides, with dozens of humans and aliens dead or wounded. Captain Velinara's ship limped away from the battle zone, carrying the surviving Zephyrian crews. Admiral Stone, she transmitted as they retreated, you have made a terrible mistake today. Came here seeking peace, and you answered with violence. Get out of human space and don't come back, Stone replied. Next time we meet, we won't be so merciful. The news of Admiral Stone's victory at New Geneva spread across Earth like wildfire. President Carter appeared on every news channel, declaring that humanity had successfully defended itself against alien aggression. The footage of burning Zephyrian ships played on repeat, and crowds gathered in the streets to celebrate what they believed was a great military triumph. But General Marcus Webb knew that the real war was just beginning. He stood in the Pentagon's war room studying intelligence, reports from the border zones. The Zephyrians had pulled back their ships and were clearly preparing for a larger conflict. Mr. President Webb said during an emergency cabinet meeting, we need to understand what we're really facing. The aliens we fought at New Geneva were rescue ships, not warships. When they decide to fight back with their military forces, this conflict will become much more serious. President Carter looked confident as she addressed the room. General, our ships destroyed 2 of their vessels and sent the rest running. How dangerous can they really be? Defense Secretary Rick Barnes pulled up holographic displays showing the alien technology that had been salvaged from the battle. Ma'am, our scientists have been studying the wreckage. The Zephyrian ships are centuries ahead of our technology. The only reason we won that first battle is because they weren't prepared to fight. Then we need to hit them again before they can organize a proper defense, Carter decided. General Webb, I'm putting you in command of all military operations. Do whatever it takes to end this threat. Webb accepted the assignment with grim determination. Unlike Admiral Stone, he understood that the aliens were not naturally aggressive, but that made them even more dangerous in his mind, a peaceful species. Forced into war would be unpredictable and desperate. The general immediately began mobilizing. Earth's entire military-industrial complex, factories that had been producing civilian goods were converted to weapons production. Scientists who had been working on peaceful projects were reassigned to develop new military technologies. Every resource that humanity possessed was directed toward the war effort. Meanwhile, Captain Ryan Steele was given command of the experimental battleship U.S. Vengeance, the most powerful warship that humanity had ever built. The massive vessel was equipped with the latest weapons technology, including prototype quantum torpedoes that could devastate entire cities. Captain Steele, General Webb briefed him in a secure facility. Your mission is to strike at the heart of alien territory. We need to show them that humanity is willing to do whatever it takes to win this war. Steele was a veteran of the Mars colonial wars, where he had earned a reputation for ruthless efficiency. He looked at the tactical displays showing Zephyrian space with the cold calculation of a professional soldier. Sir, what are our rules of engagement? Steele asked. We distinguish between military and civilian targets. Captain, these aliens started this war when they killed our miners, Webb replied. They've shown that they don't respect the difference. Between soldiers and civilians, we won't make the same mistake. What neither Webb nor Steele understood was that the Zephyrians were still trying to minimize human casualties. Elder Morthon had ordered his military commanders to target only human military installations and to avoid civilian populations whenever possible. The Zephyrian Defense Fleet was led by Commander Yarvik, experienced officer who had spent his career protecting merchant ships from space pirates. He had never fought in a real war, but he understood his duty to protect his people. Commander, human ships are approaching our outer defense stations, reported his tactical officer. They appear to be moving in force toward our supply lines. Yarvik studied the displays showing dozens of human warships advancing through space. Deploy our ships to intercept them, but remember our orders. Target their weapons and engines only. We want to disable their ships, not destroy them. The battle that followed demonstrated the fundamental difference between the two species' approaches. To warfare, the Zephyrians used precise weapons that could disable human ships without killing their crews. They even transmitted surrender offers to damaged human vessels, hoping to end the fighting quickly. But the humans fought with a brutality that shocked the aliens. When human ships were disabled, they activated self-destruct systems rather than surrender. Human weapons targeted Zephyrian life support systems, trying to kill as many aliens as possible with each shot. Captain Steele watched the battle from the bridge of the UES Vengeance as his fleet pushed deeper into alien territory. Target their hospital ships, he ordered coldly. If we destroy their medical facilities, they won't be able to treat their wounded. Sir, those are clearly marked as non-combatant vessels, his weapons officer protested. Attacking hospital ships violates the laws of war. These aliens don't follow our laws, Steele replied. They murdered our miners in cold blood. We're going to show them what real warfare looks like. The quantum torpedoes struck the Zephyrian medical ships with devastating effect. The advanced alien healing technology was destroyed instantly, along with hundreds of wounded aliens who had been receiving treatment. Commander Yarvik watched in horror as his medical fleet was annihilated. Why are they targeting our hospitals? Those ships were clearly marked as non-combatant. Sir, I don't think the humans understand our concept of limited warfare, his communications officer replied. They appear to be treating this as a war of extermination. The realization that they were facing an enemy that would target hospitals and civilian facilities forced the Zephyrians to change their strategy. Elder Morthan reluctantly authorized more aggressive tactics, but even then, the aliens tried to minimize casualties, but humanity's war machine was just getting started. General Webb had studied the intelligence reports carefully and identified the Zephyrians' greatest weakness: their compassion. The aliens would sacrifice military advantages to protect civilian populations, and Webb intended to exploit that weakness ruthlessly. All fleet commanders, new orders, Webb transmitted to his ships. Whenever you encounter alien civilian facilities, threaten to destroy them. Force the alien military to spread their defenses thin, protecting non-combatants. The strategy worked perfectly. The Zephyrian fleet was forced to divide its forces to protect refugee ships, medical facilities, and civilian colonies. This gave the human fleet the opportunity to strike at military targets with overwhelming force. Captain Steele led the final assault on Zephyria Prime itself. The beautiful blue world that had welcomed Commander Morrison with such kindness 2 years earlier now faced the full fury of human warfare. "Sir, we're detecting massive civilian evacuation efforts on the planet's surface," reported Steele's tactical officer. "The aliens are trying to move their population to safety." "Perfect?" Steele smiled grimly. "While they're busy saving civilians. They can't defend their military installations, deploy the quantum weapons, target their capital city. The experimental quantum torpedoes were humanity's most destructive weapons, capable of disrupting matter at the atomic level. When they struck Zephyria Prime, they didn't just destroy buildings, they poisoned the very soil and water. It's making vast areas of the planet uninhabitable." Elder Morthan died in the first wave of attacks, along with millions of other Zephyrians who couldn't escape the devastation. The ancient trees that had grown for thousands of years withered and died as quantum radiation spread across the continent. Commander Yarvik led the surviving Zephyrian ships in a desperate evacuation effort, loading refugee ships with as many civilians as possible. "Get everyone off the planet," he ordered. "The humans have made our world uninhabitable." As the last Zephorian ships fled their dying homeworld, Captain Steele stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance and watched the planet burn. "Send a message to General Webb," he ordered. "Tell him that Zephyria Prime has been neutralized. Alien threat has been eliminated." But the surviving Zephyrians scattered across the galaxy, carrying with them the story of what humanity had done. The other alien species who had been watching the conflict from a distance now understood what kind of beings humans really were. On Earth, President Carter delivered a victory speech to massive crowds. Today, humanity has proven that we will not bow to alien threats. We have shown the galaxy that our species cannot be intimidated or controlled. But in a quiet research station, Commander Jake Morrison recorded a different message. "To anyone who finds this recording in the future, know that not all humans supported what happened here. We were offered peace and friendship, and we chose war and destruction instead. The Zephyrians came to us with open hands, and we answered with clenched fists." Morrison's message was buried in classified files, along with the evidence of the aliens' peaceful intentions. History would remember the Zephyrian War as humanity's first great victory against alien aggression, not as the genocide of a peaceful species. General Webb was promoted to Supreme Commander of Earth's military forces and began preparing for the next phase of human expansion. "We've shown the galaxy what happens to species that threaten us," he announced. "Now we need to make sure no other aliens make the same mistake."